Good morning, afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Total Protection for Office 365 with TitanHQ and Storagepipe. My name is Emma Heher, and I am Customer Success Manager here at TitanHQ. I'm delighted to be joined here today by Eoin Higgins, SpamTitan Product Owner, and Kevin May, VP of Sales at Storagepipe. Both have massive experience in the email security space and are looking forward to sharing key market trends and insights with you today. So before we get started, I'd just like to run through a few kind of housekeeping items just to ensure successful participation in today's event. You will notice a control panel on the top right-hand corner of the screen. I'd like to bring your attention to the audio pane. I'm sure that most of you have probably joined via computer audio. However, if you wish to join via the telephone, dial-in details can be found by clicking on the telephone tab within the audio pane. We will also be conducting a Q&A later this evening, and questions can be submitted via the questions pane again in the audio panel. Please feel free to submit questions throughout the session and we will happily answer them at the end. And next I'd like to move on to kind of today's agenda. And firstly, I suppose and foremost, introduce Storagepipe and TitanHQ. So TitanHQ were founded in 1999. They're headquartered in Galway, Ireland. We have data centers across Canada, US, and Europe. We also, in terms of protecting businesses, we cover 8,500 businesses worldwide and have over 2,500 MSPs that we look after on a daily basis. We operate a 24/7, 365 support service to ensure that our customers have, available support at all time. Storagepipe were founded in 2001 and are headquartered in Toronto, Canada. We recently partnered with them to provide our customers with a managed security solution. They have data centers again across Canada, US, and Europe, and they have 20 years of experience in the backup support industry. Again, they offer a 24/7 365 support service to ensure that their customers are being looked after around the clock. Finally, I'd kind of like to move on to today's agenda. I guess that's the good part and what everyone's kind of been looking forward to. So from that perspective, I guess TitanHQ and Storagepipe have partnered together to provide a managed email protection solution, essentially for organizations worldwide to answer their cybersecurity needs. Today, we will look at how email security fits into today's ever-changing business environment. We will discuss the increased threat landscape in today's hybrid working environment and how SpamTitan's layered security approach can provide an additional layer of security for customers, organizations, and users worldwide. And on that note, I would like to hand you over to Kevin and Eoin, who will introduce you to SpamTitan and the key features of a managed email filtering solution.
Great stuff. Thank you, Emma. Sorry, Kevin, I'll move us to the next slide.
Yeah, no problem. Well, again, thank you everyone for joining. Emma, thank you for the introduction. So really today we're here to talk about the benefit of why TitanHQ and Storagepipe together. And really we bring a breadth of solutions to be able to offer you from a cybersecurity point of view. And specifically, we'll talk about obviously email protection today. So with Storagepipe, we're known for backup and DR. Been doing that for 20+ years. So really you're gonna get that deep expertise in backup, disaster recovery, and cloud infrastructure cybersecurity solutions, which is really what brought us to partner with TitanHQ on a few other products.
Thanks, Kevin. From the TitanHQ perspective, what we bring is enhanced security over email and the web. In addition, email archiving and compliance. We've products and
Oh, and I don't think we can hear your audio. Can you hear me, Emma?
Oh, and you're muted there, I think.
Okay, you can hear me though?
Yeah.
Oh, you might have lost audio on Eoin. So I guess I'll take this back for a moment. I don't know, Owen, if you can hear me, but we couldn't hear you. There, we lost your audio. But it's really anyone that's ever seen me present. Typically, I want to talk about the market, kind of what's happening, what do we see out in the industry. So we did a survey back in 2018, and really kind of what's the question here that we were looking at was what's likely to move to the cloud in the next, or sorry, in 2019. What's likely to move to the cloud in 2019? And office productivity email was at, in the top 5. This list should be pretty, recognizable by most of you. And I'm sure most of you have migrated office productivity and email at this point. Owen, if you want to go to the next slide. We redid this survey. I'm not too sure if you can hear me, Owen, but we'll get the next slide. So we redid the survey this year, and interestingly enough, when we move to the next slide, office productivity and email have actually dropped completely off the list. Stuff to move to the cloud, top priorities this year is backup and DR, along with analytics. Being smarter about your data, large data, and then the analytics on it is really what's people in the survey of 500 tech leaders around the world are saying are going to move to the cloud. But interestingly enough, office productivity and email aren't even on the list anymore, which led me to believe, kind of do a little more research. Why did this disappear off the list? And I think the simple answer really is that most of us have done it. COVID-19 happened and really pushed a lot of us, if we weren't migrated into Microsoft 365 or G Suite already, really pushed us to do that migration. And here's the survey that we're talking about. Really, business intelligence, data storage and backup, and disaster recovery are kind of top of the list from DR today in 2021. And this is a survey we outsourced to a company, Pulse, to survey 500 verified technical leaders, and it was worldwide, so it did cover Europe, Asia, and North America. It really did get a good view, and you can see some of the other stuff down the list is consistent with 2019, because we didn't get to those. Human resources, some of these other solutions are still on our list, but to me it looks like we've actually migrated our office and email productivity. Pretty much the majority of us are there already. And Owen, if you can hear me, can we go to the next slide? I just want to go to, this really led me to look at the Microsoft results. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, how can this be? And really what I'm seeing from the Microsoft results is they actually quit talking about how many active users they had late in 2020. And I believe that is, and what this leads me to believe is that new active user was slowing. But revenue is growing. So it looks like the majority of us had migrated in, but we're actually now spending more. We're adding ATP, we're adding other advanced features, because I think a lot of us got forced to move into it quickly because of COVID. But now we're kind of doubling back to say we need to secure this. We need to back this up. We need enhanced email security. Maybe we actually had a phishing event or something like that that's a freed up budget now, or made budget appear to be able to protect against these things. So from what I'm seeing from the Microsoft financial results, again, this is now that new active users slowed, but revenue is still going up, which to me means they're probably buying more of the advanced features, ATP1, different features, which is increasing your spend. Obviously, the reason Microsoft is going to continue to grow, I think the stall on the new active users is a little bit to do with COVID. We're hiring less people. Some industries have had to lay people off. So I think that's kind of caused, we're spending more, but we aren't technically hiring or growing at the same pace. Again, that's going to be a little regional depending on, what the laws are locally around COVID and lockdowns, et cetera. So that will be a little bit regional, but on the whole, we're spending more with Microsoft in this example, and we're not growing the users at the same pace is what we draw from this. If you want to go to the next slide, Owen. So I really always like to look at kind of the past, the present, and the future. So I think as an IT leader point of view, we're not necessarily thinking about return to work yet as the business leaders are. When I sit on our leadership team, we're all about return to work. I don't know that the potential impact of that's filtered down to the technical teams yet. So really work from home increased. We figured that out. We got everyone operational. Most of us probably migrated into Microsoft 365 if you're on this call. But really, we're seeing that most of you have migrated in. You know, we're expecting change coming back to work. And another survey question we had asked was, you know, what's going to make you change what you're doing in the cloud today? And by far, you know, it's going to be security is going to be the biggest changes you're going to look to make, because we rushed into it and you're adding security. But I'd also like to challenge that return to work means return to hiring. And we always do these surveys of what's your biggest fear, what's your biggest threat. And ransomware is number one, which we're going to talk about primarily today, obviously with phishing, but also employee error and malicious insiders are number 2 and 3. So employee error typically will lead to ransomware, right? They're going to click on the phishing email, they're going to let them in the front door, or they're going to get malware, etc. So I just challenge you that return to work means probably return to hiring, which means we're going to have new employees. So that training of against anti-phishing, etc., is going to be key, because our risk profile on user error is likely to increase as we hire. The other thing is our risk profile on malicious insiders is likely to increase, because if we're returning to hiring, your competitors may be returning to hiring, so you may lose employees to the competition. So for me, we're going to talk mostly about ransomware obviously today, but I didn't want to take away from that. I think Microsoft is going to grow. We're going to have new active users because we're going to be hiring, which actually increases our risk profile in other ways. If you want to go to the next slide on. So really it comes down to why protect Microsoft 365. And we're going to talk about a couple of solutions today, primarily anti-spam, but also backup. And really the combination of the two is what bringing together Storagepipe and TitanHQ is all about. So really, why protect Microsoft 365? You know, you have issues like accidental deletion. You know, it kind of feeds back to that end user error. Did they just delete a team site or a SharePoint site? Are your permissions set correctly? So accidental deletion is a big one. Retention gaps, policy confusion, right? Again, what is the retention within Microsoft 365? Do you understand that? Like when a user deletes something, or if you get ransomware hacked because of a bad email that gets clicked on and they delete stuff for crypto lock, what is your retention with Microsoft? So that causes a lot of conflict when we rush into M365. As we already talked about, internal and external security threats. We have actually seen ransomware in OneDrive, et cetera, where a user clicks on that bad email, compromises their credentials, and then lets them in the front door. Legal compliance requirements. And I'd actually challenge that this is legal and now insurance. Any of you that are dealing with insurance companies trying to buy cyber insurance, these are kind of mandatory things you have to have in place today. Anti-spam and then backup of your data. It is important, and it's a legal compliance to whatever industry you're in. If you're in the UK and GDPR is a concern, or if you're in the legal industry or healthcare, PIPEDA, HIPAA, we will help make you compliant with those. And then managing deployments and migrations. We're rushing into this. Some of us have, or maybe still are. Making sure that we manage those migrations and that connectivity back to our potential on-prem environment still. If you're using AD Connect, et cetera. There's potential security concerns there also. Go ahead, Eoin.
Lovely. Just before we leave this slide, actually, Kevin, on the topic of external security threats, I was reading something interesting this week, an interview with a hacker and a ransomware threat actor. And it was interesting. He was a Russian gentleman, family man, entirely normal guy. But this was his business. This is what he did. And he picked targets and explored vulnerabilities. And the thing I found most interesting about him was he perceived his role as punishing vulnerabilities. He knew it was illegal, obviously, but he was punishing vulnerabilities. If you were smarter, you wouldn't have me as your problem. So in a sense, he's putting some justification onto the victim. But it's a very real threat. We'll talk about it in the next slide, but if you come away from this demo today with one thing, take ransomware and fraud and cyber fraud very, very seriously. excuse me. And that's what this slide and the next two really are all about. As Kevin mentioned, ransomware is the prime threat that's being seen around the world. Well, from a digital perspective, around the world today. The source for that is the European Internet Security Agency, and almost any other source you look at is going to say the same thing. Ransomware is interesting because in my opinion, the return is so much greater than the cost. If you're a ransomware criminal, you'll get paid in a number of ways by ransoming somebody's data, your data, and if they don't comply, okay, you'll sell the data to the public. Potentially, if they do comply, you'll sell the data to the public. And if you've managed to exfiltrate the data and see what's there, you can contact the partners or clients of the people whom you've just hacked and let them know that their data is going to go public and ransom that. So really, for not a lot of effort, you have a number of avenues for making sales, making money. What's also interesting, and Coalition Cyber Insurance have said this in 2020, the average ransomware demand for an SMB went up, I'm thinking that's over 50%, from 230,000 to 338. That's not a small amount of money, and that's the average for SMBs. It's pervasive. It's a significant problem. The two main vectors for it, the first is Microsoft Remote Desktop Protocol. So it's obviously critical to make sure that that is secured. But phishing is the second main vector of where ransomware actors get in your front door. In terms of email, that door is always open. You're always receiving email, so it's better that people get turned away at the knock rather than get any further. Phishing itself is interesting, just independent of ransomware. There is I think 85% of the world's email is either spam or phishing or otherwise not positive and not destined for or not genuine, let's say. The FBI and the ICCC group within the FBI who produce reports on this, they've seen it grow by a factor of 10 from 2016 to 2020. So there's over 200, they recorded over 200,000 complaints with respect to phishing in 2020, and it was only 20,000 complaints in 2016. COVID-19 obviously played a significant role in 2020 and continues to do so in 2021 with respect to phishing. A lot of people, phishing emails require urgency for people to act. That they create a sense of urgency and just that desire that you, as the person who receives the phishing email, have to do something now. You don't have time to think about it. It's really critical that it happens. And obviously with the pandemic and the way that that's been raging throughout the world, hackers had just the perfect intro into everybody's inbox. As an aside from general phishing, in terms of business email compromise, the FBI received over 19,000 complaints in 2020 again, and that led to 1.8 billion loss to those businesses. And I find a couple of things, I mean, that's a staggering number. They're both staggering numbers, but what's interesting about this is in terms of fraud, humans don't tend to report it. We don't like to be seen as fools. We don't like to admit our vulnerabilities. Most frauds go unreported. So if most frauds go unreported and you've got 19,000 in the US, reported in the US alone, to a loss of 1.8 billion, that's a staggering market, and on top, sorry.
No, absolutely, Eoin. I agree. deal with clients all the time that have this situation, or they come to us because they've had the situation. The majority of them do not want to report this. So I would say it's probably a very low percentage that does get reported, especially if they're, you know, depending on the company, right?
Yep.
Do they want their customers to know? Do they want the shareholders to know, potentially, if they're a large corporation?
And what was interesting about the article I read with the hacker was that he was saying when you're hacking in Europe, people will just pay, and they'll pay because if they get found out with respect to GDPR and that they've been hacked and that public data is available online, they're penalized as well by the law as well as by the hacker. So, you know, that gentleman likes European targets. If there are laws in Canada that are similar in any way to the European GDPR that respect people's privacy, I know that certain states in the United States have them. The attitude may be similar. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, with respect to what you've been saying earlier, Kevin, and the return to work and security with respect to return to work, we did some research earlier in the year with Osterman Research, and we asked a number of questions to IT employees around the world, and 2 points from that I think are relevant to your point about return to work, and that is with regard to the confidence to recognize phishing threats. So we asked very simply, how confident were people recognizing phishing threats? So as you can see, the top two categories, certainly in the orange bar with the email, are relatively confident, and those are mid-level managers and employees who've been with the organization for 2 years. They know, I'm sure they'll have had training. They more than likely can recognize email. They know who is sending email to them and what the context might be. The ability to create a sense of urgency probably wouldn't be there for them. The ability to execute a successful anti-spoofing attack wouldn't be there. But if you look at the bottom, where you've got new employees, and new employees recognize that, well, maybe we're not always going to get phishing threats right. Maybe we will think that somebody is the managing director and, you know, they need an invoice paid this Friday afternoon, and I had better do it. You know, so there's a risk there that an unfamiliarity with the organization can create a security issue. I bring this to your personal experience, Kevin.
Yeah, so you know, I typically don't talk as detailed about ransomware in a lot of sales calls because I don't want to seem like we're selling on fear, but it truly is real, and it's out there, and it's persistent. It happens every day. You know, we as a company have well over 1,000 clients, so we do see it very often. This is an example from, you know, literally a week and a half ago. So we had a client, they weren't buying anti-spam products off us. They weren't buying Microsoft 365 products off us. They ended up getting ransomware. Again, they believe it was let in through a phishing email, and they got into the system. So if any of you have not dealt with a ransomware, essentially they crypto lock every directory everywhere they can, and they leave a file in the folder. The file in the folder basically says, download this browser, which is your gateway to the dark web, essentially. I'm sure you know what that is. I won't give the name here, but it's essentially your gateway to the dark web. And then they say, click on this link. So we've seen this quite often. This specific customer a couple weeks ago wanted us to potentially negotiate with them, with the ransomware hackers, for them on their behalf. So we spin up an isolated server for this, essentially out on the internet in a DMZ. We connect to it because we don't want to do this from any other server to, you know, cause more compromise of the environment. So essentially we install this browser, we click the link, it brings up a chat window. Essentially it's just a chat site. And you can see here, you should inform management as fast as possible because it could just be an IT person that realizes this. If you ignore us, we'll heavy DDoS your site and infrastructure, and be prepared for communication with customer, partners, employees. This one, when we joined it, it had a queue. You can see here, we said hello, and then it said, please hold, also support specialists are busy. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. I just wanted to show this to show this is a business. There's geographies where there's essentially large, criminal businesses that do this. They do it from non-extradition countries. This was essentially a call center. We waited 45 minutes for them to come back. Net of it, they asked for $300,000 US. If you pay within 48 hours, if you pay within 24, they would take 225,000. This was a small business because they do target SMB businesses on this stuff, and essentially they weren't in the position to pay that kind of ransom. We ended the negotiations, but they did actually follow through on the DDoS attacks. They followed through on the communications with clients, partners, employees. So the one interesting, it wasn't just a fear tactic. They actually did follow through on the DDoS attack, knock their website off. They're still intermittently doing it. So it is real. It happens all the time, and it's very organized. It's not always just someone in their basement, right? It's a very organized situation in a lot of these scenarios.
Yep. And
Uh,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Owen, I was just going to jump in to say that we were going to run a poll, just to add some more food for thought. But I'm happy to hand it back over to you if you've something to add.
No. I was just going to mention that the Irish Health Service, so TitanHQ, as you know, are based in Ireland. The Irish Health Service got hacked and held to ransom right in the middle of 2020, just when COVID was really starting to ramp up in the country. In that instance, the hackers had a heart and provided the key to unlocking the information back to the health service, but so they could get data, but a lot of the machines were still broken, and they're still recovering. It's been a year later, and the health service are still recovering in terms of their IT services and facilities. So, that is your best case scenario, where the hackers give the information back and it's still damaging. So sorry, Emma, please, I'll hand it back to you.
No problem. Yeah, so I guess we just wanted to run a poll to make this a little bit more interactive. And I suppose the guys have really highlighted the risk associated with email communication and the increased threat that is out there. So the poll question that we have for you all is, are you currently using a third-party security solution to protect your Office 365 users and data? And as you can see, you have two options. So if you could please pick the appropriate answer, we'll discuss further later in the Q&A session. So you just have a few moments there to select your answers. Okay, Owen, I think I'm passing back over to you so you can introduce the Web Titan demo. Oh, sorry, SpamTitan demo.
That's great. Thanks, Emma. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about SpamTitan and Microsoft 365. And I'm going to do a brief demo and talk about our roadmap and where we want to go in terms of email security in 2022. So we think that Microsoft 365 security is good, but there are many tiers in terms of that security. It's potentially expensive at the very top level. Like at every level is good, at the very top level it's excellent. We think that in terms of email security, SpamTitan compares favorably with what Microsoft offer in terms of performance, but also and critically price. And one of the reasons we recommend it is because, and Emma mentioned it at the start, layering security is really, really important. No security application is perfect. So if you can enhance it using additional tools, we absolutely recommend it. In terms of performance and what SpamTitan does, we will catch spam, viruses, malware, phishing, C-level impersonation, everything like that. This line is kind of me speaking as the SpamTitan product owner. We're constantly seeking to improve the application. In our last release, we brought geo-blocking functionality to our customers. They've been asking for it. We are going to do a UI refresh project in the new year. We're going to bring out QuickTime anti-phishing protection, which I'm going to talk about and demo in a couple of minutes. What I hear from our support team in terms of ourselves and Microsoft is that a lot of our customers who are also Microsoft customers prefer to use SpamTitan for mail management. So being able to find and interrogate what's happening in with your emails as they're coming through your systems. We also have a tremendous support. I mentioned them, because they told me that information, but we have a tremendous support team who are willing and able to assist with any questions any customers have around SpamTitan itself or the connection between SpamTitan and Microsoft 365. If you see it on the right here, it's not just our opinion. We've been awarded for fall 2021 Best of Email Security and Best of Email Security for Office 365 from Expert Insights. And we have no input into that. Expert Insights are a proudly independent group. They polled their members and customers of different security products around the world and came up with these lists. We're delighted to be on it. We're delighted that we're recognized. And I mentioned earlier as well that we've brought out a new product, EncryptTitan, for that additional security and compliance should that be essential in your business. So let me see. I'm going to demo here. How much time have we got?
Yeah, while you're bringing that up. Yeah, while you're bringing that up, Owen, I just want to say also for, if you need to keep your data in country, I'll call it, whether that's you want to keep it in the UK for GDPR or in the US or in Canada for the Privacy Act rules that we have to live by here. We actually, the servers that you redirect your MX records to essentially are here in Canada or in the US or in the UK. So we do, keep your data resident where it needs to be also as part of that, because then it's important to a lot of Canadians because of the Privacy Act. But sorry, go ahead.
No, thanks. That's absolutely correct. We, as mentioned at the start, we have servers around the world. If you're a Canadian business and it's critical to you, you can be housed in Canada, as Kevin has said. So this is the SpamTitan application. I'm logged in as an administrator, and this is the dashboard that you'll see. When you log in, we like to think of SpamTitan as a set and forget application. So when you log in, before you do it, the first thing you'll do is get the mail flow working. So have your mails coming through our MX records through SpamTitan and back to your inboxes. So a lot of things happen even before you change the setting. A lot of things happen. We'll look at rate controls, gray listing. We'll check recipient validity. We'll do real-time black hole listing checks. We'll do SPF, DMARC, DKIM checks for DNS, basically DNS level checks on the emails to make sure they're coming from the right place. We'll check for viruses. If something needs to be sandboxed, it will be sandboxed. We'll check the security of your attachments, and not just the Microsoft type attachments, which I believe is how Exchange Online Protection works. We'll check, we have a broad range of attachments from many, many conceivable files. We'll also do anti-spoofs checking, and all of these things are happening for you. And I'm not going to go into that. What I want to do is talk a little bit about how it's used and how you can enhance it with the help of Storagepipe. So as I say, this is the administration view. When an email is flowing, the demo gods.
No worries. While you're logging in. Oh, and so yeah, so the other thing is when you buy this from, Storagepipe, it's a fully managed solution. So our team manages and monitors. You have full access. You can come in here, take as much or as little control of this as you like. But we do sell it as a managed service. So we set you up, we implement you, and we actually monitor this day to day. But sorry, go ahead, Eoin. I was just filling in while you're.
No, absolutely. Please go ahead. So I'm actually going to jump a little bit. I see we're at 35 minutes past the hour, so I'm going to skip through some items. So one of the first things we recommend, and Storagepipe would, I'm sure, recommend when you onboard, is that you set up quarantine reports. And I've got an example of a quarantine report here. And the reason why is because for your for your typical user in SpamTitan, this is their main touch point. You can do everything that a user will need to do through this very, very simple email. The email is, as I say, simple. It's quite powerful. It's broken down as follows. We've got a summary at the top. We have some instructions as to your actions next. So you can use this to deliver the mail and have it leave quarantine and go into the inbox. If you elect to allow the mail, it will not only go into the inbox, but ensure that any email from that sender always goes into the inbox. Or you can delete the mail that's deleted from quarantine and will never make the inbox. So those actions are down here. I've only got one spam message. I'm lucky I don't get many.
Oh, and I love that. I love that spam message. The subject of it says, "This is not a spam or advertisement." Right in the subject, by the way. That's.
I know. Do you think he's lying?
Yeah, that's interesting.
And yet, it's not a spam message, but it scored a 6.67.
Yeah.
So, as there are a couple of thousand rules in the back end of SpamTitan between the rules we've written and the antivirus rules that get run on every email. And when one of the rules triggers, it'll attach a score to the mail, and the scores will add up your spam score essentially. And this one, once it's over 5, it gets quarantined. That's our basic setting, and it's kind of best practice. You can work with Storagepipe if you want to change or manage that. So this one's quarantined. We have our choice of actions. And if there were more mails here, we'd see them, and you could go through each one and work out what you want to do.
And we can change that score on a per user. So some of our customers have like a sales ad ID that they really want to see everything come in. High risk, obviously, not necessarily recommended, but we can drop the score to let more in. Or if you have super sensitive users that you want to make sure they don't, you can actually make it harder for email to get through. So it is adjustable on a per user also.
Yep. And as well, from the user touchpoint perspective, you have options as to what you want to do with this report and how you want to manage it just down here. And just one thing to draw your attention to is that the report, from a scheduling perspective, it will come out once a day. If you need more, you can use this email address this email to look at new items since the last report only. So, okay, I'm very conscious of time here. So what I want to talk a little bit about is, excuse me, the filter rules that you can apply, or more importantly, you can work with Storagepipe to apply. I mentioned that we think of this as a set and forget tool, and it can be that. It can absolutely be that. But we don't know your email environment. We don't know the email patterns that you're seeing. This is very effective, but as I said, no security tool is perfect. So if you want it to be better, it's good to work with your administrators in this case, Storagepipe, to better secure what you have. There are a number of additional tools that we provide for you to do that. You've got global block lists, so if you can block email addresses and domains, and no emails from either those addresses or domains will make your inbox. You've got a corresponding allow list where, again, emails from the addresses or domains will always make the inbox. We have additional anti-spoofing settings if you choose to turn them on. we get an IP list or a host name list that we use to validate when we do anti-spoofing analysis. And if somebody is claiming to be the CEO of your organization, and even if their name looks right, but their email isn't coming through from one of your valid IPs, then they're absolutely, that email isn't going to make anyone's inbox. We also recently added geo-blocking, and geo-blocking is an interesting tool because it's very popular straight away. It allows you to block by country. So you're based in Canada. If you know that you're receiving a lot of emails from, Turkmenistan, for example, you could choose, and you have no business in Turkmenistan, you could choose to block that. It's very, very, very simple to add a country. So Turkmenistan or Turks and Caicos, we will go for Turkmenistan. There we go. All email is blocked from Turkmenistan. I'd previously done that for the Russian Federation. And what we do is we also allow for exceptions, because maybe there are cases where certain people or companies have to get information to you, and the rest of their country is not something that you welcome. But the reason I brought up Russia is because my favorite example down here, if we want to get emails from Vlad at kremlin.ru, this is going to let that happen. So Vlad will always get to us, but nobody else from Russia gets through. So that's, it's very simple, it's very powerful. It was used as soon as we brought it out, it got great take up. So just conscious of time, I'm really, sorry, skipping ahead here. I'm going to talk about our timeline. Because I want to explain to you guys where, things that we think are critical in email protection and things that we want to add. So in our upcoming release, which is scheduled for the start of December, we're adding a service that we call LinkLock. It's an anti-phishing enhancement, link rewriting and verification on check. So it's a really powerful tool. We think it's essential. It's going to be an additional part of SpamTitan. Unfortunately, we had hoped to get it into the original SpamTitan price, but frankly, we have to create an entirely new back-end service, and the cost just couldn't work. So there will be additional, small amount of additional expenditure, but the level of security that you're getting, particularly, with respect to inadvertent links, is very, very high. So what you'll see, I'm going to share an email here. Let me see, where is it? Oh no. Sorry, folks. The demo gods did for me. So I've got an email here that I sent to a friend, and he replied to me. And I've picked this because you very clearly see the link that has been sent, and it has been rewritten in the form of linklock.TitanHQ. And what happens with that, it's an article in the Guardian newspaper. What happens is that we go and check when that's clicked. We go and check and confirm that it's not spam, it's not malware, or it's not phishing. And if that's the case, then you, the user, are redirected to the article. We rewrite every link that's coming in, and we'll check everyone that's clicked. And this is, there's longevity to this service. If you forward it on to an external person and the link has been locked by us, they'll still click it. They'll still get that same service. So the link is secure for you and for your partners. or anybody you're sending information to. When we detect that the categorization isn't there, what you'll get is a block page. So the block page is very, very simple. You've the we'll tell you that your access blocked. You've the option to show the link or not. You can change those in the settings. So if we come into content filtering and link lock, you can modify settings here as you will. But really, this is a critically important tool for anti-phishing because it takes the risk, it takes a lot of risk out of email. Where we want to go as well in the coming year is to improve our M365 integration. So right now, our next step is to enhance our API integration. We can remove the need for MX record manipulation. We can simplify the experience for our MSPs and their customers, and we can utilize some existing Microsoft tools that are very beneficial for your security. So that's in plan. The other thing that one of the other big things that we're planning next year is our UI refresh. So you might have noticed that our UI charitably isn't the latest style. So we have a project underway to not only provide a better user experience, but to make it simpler, to make it easier to find, because there's a lot happening in SpamTitan, and we want to make sure that users, be it admins like Storagepipe or ordinary users, don't have any issues. We also want to think about it so that we're not doing any minimizing clicks to action, really. And I've an example of that here. So what you're seeing here are two screenshots. The left is the view that you would get as you log in as an MSP. So there'll be some statistics that are important up the top, but front and center are your customers. And basically, if you click on a customer, that's how you access them. Should you do that, you come into a customer view, and a customer of an MSP would log straight in here, or just a normal customer from TitanHQ that doesn't need to be an MSP would log straight in here. You'll get statistics about your emails that are valuable. But here's an example where we're improving the product. We have quick actions on the front. So as a customer, I might want to add inboxes, allow senders or block senders. These are things that are critical. We just want to do one click and you're at that point. There's no searching around through tabs, because SpamTitan right now is quite big, and there can be a little bit of hunting to get where you need to be. Just another example of that is if you want to read through your email details, which is a critical part of troubleshooting. I would have shown a view similar to this in the existing SpamTitan, and it had 4 tabs. The same here: details, view message, and view source. But what we've done is the 4th tab would have been an action one. This one, all the actions are on every one of these tabs, and it's a small thing, but it's just showing the level of detail in which we're thinking about the application. We're not just reskinning it and making it look good. We're enhancing it in terms of usability, and we're enhancing it in terms of your experience. So I'm conscious of time. That's everything from me today. Kevin, shall I move on to the next slide?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead on. I'll just talk a little bit about backup. So I'm not sure if anyone out there today does back up their Microsoft 365. Obviously, coming from a cybersecurity backup DR background in Storagepipe, it is critically important to us. You would have backed up an Exchange server that you had on-prem before, obviously. We do truly believe that you need to back your Microsoft 365 up. And Microsoft 365 is not just email, right? It's you're migrating file servers into SharePoint potentially. Your users hopefully are adopting and using OneDrive and keeping their My Documents synced to OneDrive. So, to me, backing up Microsoft 365 in some cases is replacing backup of PCs, because all the critical documents are in, the desktop, the documents, and they're getting synced through OneDrive. And, into Microsoft 365. So really, we have that ability to back it all up. Very cost-effective product. I won't go into all the details because we are tight on time today. But if anyone wants a demo on either of these products, and Owen, if you want to go to the next slide, I will talk a little bit briefly about it. But this slide I like to show. This is kind of what you get out of the box with Microsoft 365. So you know, stuff in your inbox is going to be kept for 2 years and moved to archive. Anything that's deleted generally is going to be kept for 30 days. So, you know, to the malicious insider, we have users that are smart enough that they are going to resign. They start deleting their mail 30 days before. If you don't back that up, it will be gone out of Microsoft 365 before you get there. OneDrive and SharePoint, you can turn a second stage recycling bin on. They'll give you 90 days. But the biggest important note here is that gray line down the middle. The average length of time from data compromise to discovery is over 140 days. So you'll see the majority of the time, by the time you realize something's gone, and again, in this case, end user error or malicious insider, or even like someone gets phished and the hackers are on the inside, because ransomware, they're usually on the inside for a while before, and they could manipulate data ahead of time. So having this ability to go back in time further than what Microsoft gives you out of the box, it is important to understand this. And that actually comes from Microsoft themselves in 6 steps to holistic security for Microsoft 365. So the other thing I'd always like to know is archive is not a copy, it's a move action. So when something gets moved to archive, it's not making a copy of it, it's just moving it. So if you want to go to the next slide, just really the highlight reel of this, we're a big Veeam provider, so we use a solution called Veeam, big backup provider. We can back all things up with it, but specifically to their Microsoft 365 data set, we do back that up from Microsoft 365 to us directly, so you don't have to take a bandwidth hit at your site to download that to yourselves. Essentially, we pull it from their cloud to our cloud. Again, that cloud could be in the UK, the US, Canada, where you need it to be, because for us, data residency is key to all things for most customers. And really, it's cloud, so you don't have to worry about buying more disks, growing it. And we do have retention available up to forever. So depending on your industry, your compliance needs, we can keep different data sets for different amounts of times. The other thing is typically email will keep for a long time, maybe 20 years, 10 years, or forever. But we can also do a different retention on SharePoint, OneDrive. Maybe you only want to keep a year worth of that or more. It's very, very flexible in what data you keep and for how long. And the key is, again, getting it out to an alternate location outside of Microsoft 365. Again, I won't go into the details, but if you wanted more information, we could easily set up a demo to walk you through the product with our sales engineers. If you want to go to the next slide, and really, I'll hand it back to Emma to kind of wrap up.
Perfect. So I think that we're going to move on to the Q&A session, and we will look at the poll results. They should just pop up on screen over the next. So we can see here that, yeah, an overwhelming vote that yes, most of our attendees, in fact, 89% of our attendees do use a third-party security solution. Given the real-life examples that you shared, Kevin, I'm sure that that doesn't come as a surprise that organizations want to protect their business.
Absolutely, and I'm sure Owen would agree, but typically with anti-spam, most of us have had a solution for years. Maybe it's an on-prem Barracuda or something like that, right? I think the move is more to a cloud-based solution like this, something that will support you, something that will integrate. But yeah, I'm not surprised. Most of the time, there's an existing product, probably legacy in a lot of cases, that does this. On the backup side, I feel like it's usually more of an afterthought, so people may or may not have it, but I'm not surprised by those results.
Owen, is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, not really. I think you captured it all, Kevin. Security, you know, as bleak a picture as we painted, I think many people are aware of that, and it brings us no joy to paint that picture, but it's the reality. So no, I'm delighted to hear that 89% have a third party and security solution. And to be honest, for the 11%, I hope that Storagepipe and SpamTitan seems positive to you and that we're hearing from you soon.
One other thing I'd just like to add to that, we have a promotion on right now for a combination of the two. It's a very aggressive promotion at a couple dollars a user for the software license for both of these. So we have a very competitive pricing offer on this also that I'd just like to put out there. So I know typically we're trying to displace on the anti-spam, and I believe we have, especially from us, it's a managed solution. So whether you have IT people to manage, the system like Eoin was showing you, or whether you 100% rely on Storagepipe, it's a very aggressive price offer we have out right now till the end of the year. So, I think it'd be worth taking a look at it for sure if you're in a cycle to swap something out.
Thanks, Kevin. And just to add, there is a handout attached on the control panel where you can download details of Storagepipe services, and all contact details can be found there if you wish to get in contact with Kevin to get a demo or get some further information on SpamTitan. So I guess we'll just jump into the Q&A. We're very short in time, so I think we're going to only have time for one question. The questions that have come in, rest assured we will respond to everyone over the course of the next 24 hours. But just looking at what has come in here, I think that I'm going to go with this one. So we've got one question. I'm using Office 365. What security features am I missing that SpamTitan provides? So I'm not sure who wants to take this. Eoin, Kevin, who wants to jump in?
Oh, I can do that, yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, there are a few different flavors of Office 365 and a few different flavors of the security that goes with that. In terms of email protection, and just focused on email protection, what you get with SpamTitan and Office 365 as an Exchange Online protection is quite similar, but the critical difference, I think, well, first off, as I said, adding another layer gives you that extra benefit of protection, particularly at the price point. I suppose the critical difference between ourselves and Microsoft is adding us as another layer rather than going to the next price point, and Microsoft is considerably cheaper. We've used different antivirus engines. We probably different logic for envelope analysis. Anti-phishing techniques like I demoed in LinkLock will be considerably less expensive than getting the same solution from Microsoft, because they do have something similar, but you will have to pay. So, well, of course you'll have to pay, but you'll have to pay more. So we're absolutely worth looking at.
Thanks, Eoin. I think in the interest of time, I think we're nearly out, so I'm going to kind of wrap things up. I suppose the key takeaway from today is that businesses really require some sort of email filtering solution, because you've demonstrated over the last hour that there's a huge threat there to any organization that uses email communication. So thank you very much, Eoin and Kevin, for a thorough presentation and providing such a detailed overview of how SpamTitan works with Office 365. I'd also like to thank everyone that attended today. I hope you found this session useful. We will be conducting a survey after today's webinar, so please share your feedback. We're happy to take any feedback on board for future webinars that we will be hosting. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a handout attached on the control panel, so please download it so you can kind of have a look at the services that Storagepipe and TitanHQ offer, and there are contact details then, if you wish to explore it further. We will be following up via email over the course of the next 24 hours with a link to this presentation also. So again, thank you very much for attending, and on behalf of TitanHQ and our presenters, thank you for joining today, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks all.
Thank you.